Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and as you can see we've moved away from Powick Church and we've now come down to Powick Bridge. And what you have to remember is if you were here on the 23rd of September 1642, this is the bridge that saw the first engagement of the whole of the Civil War. It began here. And the interesting thing is, on the morning of the 3rd of September 1651, this is where Parliament found the biggest amount of resistance of the battle so far. In other words, over in that direction, on the far bank of the River Team, you have Powick Village and Powick Church. And if you think back to the earlier video, parliamentarians under the command of Dean, and in particular Fleetwood as well, had come up to the high ground where the village and the church sits, and they fought in the grounds of that church, and it didn't go very well, and we can still see the bullet marks on the church today. And remember, the Scots fled down the bank, down into the Team Valley here, and they ended up coming across this bridge. So in the distance over there we have the village and Powick Church, and you would have seen Scots fleeing across this bridge, crossing the planks, by the way, because just like Bewdley, just like Upton, they demolished the central spans it is a typical defensive feature of 17th century or even medieval warfare later on as well. And they would have got across and they would have commanded this side. And the interesting thing is, we are now at this point. So we have Sir William Keith, the man that did a bit of fighting a day or so ago around Buns Hill in Perry Wood. He's down here commanding this whole area. He has one simple order, and that is to hold that bridge at all costs, because you have to remember there are technically two bridges in this battle. Powick Bridge across the Team, and then the City Bridge over there. That does not play an important part at the moment. So this is an important part of defending the whole of the West Bank. Keith has to hold this bridge, and his men would have been here firing across the bank. So if I was, for example, one of the Scotsmen here, I would have been pouring musket fire across that side where the parliamentarians had began to appear as they came down off that hill where they'd just won their little victory at Powick Church. But in the distance, further downstream of the Team, we have Pittscotties Highlanders, and they're quite happy down in that corner, not much happening, they're quite safe. All the fighting at the moment is happening at this bridge, on this bank, and it's really a firefight. No one can get together to actually have a pike fight or even a sword fight, to be fair. It is literally a musket duel down here. But in the distance we also have our reserves in that direction, which is Dial and Montgomery. So if it goes horribly wrong here, we can draw them in. But the problem is there is a huge force. Even though this is only the advance guard that are now firing across the bank, there is a massive force of parliamentarians coming down to the far bank of the River Team. Dean in the distance here, and over by the confluence of the Severn we have Fleetwood, and it's going to be a huge forcing of this first bridge. Beyond in the distance there, which is now the hydroelectric station, which is the Victorian hydropower station, there used to be a water mill, and we know the Scots held up in there and they would have been firing from the windows. So at this point in the battle, the early morning of the 3rd of September 1651, we now have the fight to hold Powick Bridge. This is key because it's a crossing point across one of the obstacles that Cromwell has to his front. Anyway, on that note, stay tuned, there's lots more to come, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.